Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction, for the invitation. I am one of the scientists mentioned by Caroline in the speak before. I'm coming from Switzerland. You see also it quite in the logo. And I would like also to thank all my colleagues of the Life Cycle Assessment Research Group who provided a lot of the figures I will present to you. So I'm specialist of one method, life cycle assessment. I don't want to go into the details of this method. It is not the issue this afternoon, but it's important to have in mind the typical method which is meant for decision makers. And when I speak about it, either I am among scientists or I have to speak it with decision makers, which are in order to understand what we do. And if these decision makers are very well organized in their knowledge management, they can do a lot of things with it. So let us think of private sector, retailers, food industry, and so on, and also authorities like ministries, but also FAO, of course, can work with such an issue. But we heard it since the beginning of this afternoon. All what we speak is also of concern for the citizens, for the consumers, and also for the farmers. And it's an interesting challenge on how to bring this type of knowledge to all this type of people. I am responsible in the expo menu of this afternoon for the recipes. Okay, I said to myself, let us imagine something with chicken and potatoes in order to illustrate what we can bring with such a life cycle assessment techniques. And for the consumers, how can I buy these recipes? And the question is the same for the retailers. How I have to sell these recipes, this food. And what are the typical type of questions that I imagine this target group can have? We have people requiring from us some explicit information about figures, some absolute figures, typical carbon footprint. You have a quantity of kilogram or milligram of CO2 equivalent for the food, for example, spaghetti that you buy, written on the package. It's really the idea of a self-management of the information. You should be able to make something with it. Up to myself, I find it is difficult. And we have a second type of request to help, to give some recommendations. It's very case study specific. Is it better to buy organic than conventional? Is it better to buy regional than international? And so on and so on. I will give some examples how we can bring some information about it. But there is also a third expectation, that all this knowledge is considered by the people working in it. So that if you buy with this label, the label considers this information. Or that you can also have the hope that the retailer have a sustainability strategy considering this information. And I will say some words about it at the end of my presentation. So, I go to the chicken, and I will put some different questions. Perhaps you have them. If I have chicken, which production step does matter? You have here a typical graph for life cycle assessment, a lot of environmental impacts. I don't go into the details. Important is, let us see the blue color. It is the more important phase when you eat chicken. It is the animal production. A little bit the slaughterhouse processes and packaging for energy, the red one, but otherwise all transport and so on do not play a great role. So let us focus on this animal production. And not anymore the chicken meat at the selling point, but at the farm gate. Much more environmental impacts, not so important. Get an impression of the whole picture. What is the most contribution part? It is what you have in the light blue. Almost always are the concentrates. All the feeds like maize, soybean, barley, and so on, that the chicken eat. It is what plays a major role for the environmental impact by chicken. Sometimes we have the dark blue. It is a small chick that are bought at the beginning of the housing. But it is also because they also eat, for example, soybean and so on. So we come to some simple information. Okay, most important thing in the whole aspect is this part of concentrates feeding. I add a second question. Not only which is a production step which is the most important, but also does the production country play a role? We have on the right of this figure animal products, milk, cheese, excuse me, beef. And here you see, as of for global warming potential, most important, the green colors is agriculture. Confirms what I said before about chicken. But it's not valid for all food. Let us see the left part of the picture. For plant products, for example, wheat bread, you have also an important part. This is the blue one, processing and storage. Here are the milling aspects, the bakery processing play some role. And let us see for the potatoes, the transport in red, because a lot of transport is made by trucks. So, according to the place, when you speak of plant production, it can play a role. But look also at the absolute figure. On the left, you have small quantity of CO2 equivalent per kilogram. On the right, much more greater. Is it true that transport always do not play any role in animal production? No. Let us see the case of this beef imported from Brazil to Switzerland. Beer is Brazil, yes. If it is imported like it is done because of different sanitary reasons and market reasons and so on by airplane, all the gains that the Brazilian people have through the extensive production of beef are overcompensated and lost compared to beef produced in Germany or in Switzerland. If it would be possible to bring this beef by ship, it would be always positive for the Brazilian people. So we can find some exceptions of this type. Now, let us see, I go always from complicate to more complicate. Let us see my potatoes, table potatoes, produced in Europe, sold in Switzerland. What I said before about the transport of the potatoes. Let us see the red arrow about global warming potential. The other part in shadow is a part of the transport. You can see in the aggregate phase a little bit the same. Through the transport, the Swiss potatoes have an advantage. Not because of the way on how the farmer produce them, but because of the transport from the foreign potatoes for global warming potential. But you have no pesticide emissions by transport. Here you have only to see what happens in the field. It's my yellow arrow on the right. Here is the fact that you have much more pesticide, herbicides used in Switzerland than in other countries. Switzerland is in red, makes no difference. So the transport cannot always save the farmers of not being better than the other one. When I speak, I come back to my animal production. What I say, the transport do not play a very great role. So are the local production by the production, which are important. Let us see here different environmental impacts. Switzerland is in red, other countries, other colors. The reason why Switzerland has an impact which is in general lower than the other countries analyzed here is due to the fact, first, we have a lot of grassland. We heard it before. And for many impact, it is better to have feeding by grassland by concentrates. For example, nitrogen cycle, it is the green one. And we have also a lot of rain. I don't work for the tourism, but a lot of rain in Sweden, much more than in other countries. So we have a very low problem with, thank you, with water footprint. Another question which is always, also a lot of times, put, it is better to buy organic or conventional. Complex figure, but have in mind, on the left, you have organic farming. On the right, you have the farming conventional. You have about the same results, but I am a little bit too, too fast. The blue dark contribution on the right is the mineral fertilizers. Much more energy, you don't have it in organic farming, logical. For energy is organic farming better for a different group of arable production. Quite clear if I speak of pesticides. You have pesticide in conventional farming, not in organic farming. You have also here clear results between left organic, right conventional. But there is also aspect that is not so simple for organic farming. Is the fact that you have more manure. And manure means more ammonia emission. And the reason why it is in blue on the left, you have not so good results for organic farming. And you have lower yield. So I come to the last example, the much more complicated, but also a question which is put. And animal welfare. Should I buy also my chicken according to animal welfare? In order to illustrate the debate from all this environmental impact, I consider one with the red arrow. It is a competition for arable land. This arable land used for my concentrates, not for human alimentation, but for my chicken. Conventional is the red one. You see in yellow, it is animal welfare, more animal welfare, 50% worse. Why? Because with more animal welfare, in order that the chicken can always stand a little bit moves, they have to live a little bit longer, about 60 days compared to 40 days. And of course, they need to eat more than the conventional chicken. And if I consider, I say, okay, I want to have organic concentrates with animal welfare, which is logical for organic farming. Due to the fact that the yields are lower, I need much more area. So here we have a typical debate where you have a trade-off between what you want to achieve with organic farming, animal welfare, and what you want to achieve with efficiency in the production. So, are you confused? Are you lost? First question. Second one, do you trust me? Did I say the truth? And I would like to invite you, as a conclusion of my presentation, to think of two aspects. Also, the first point that I, as a scientist, want to say is clear, is that things are complex. We have to accept this complexity, and we have to learn to cope with it. Simplifying is important, but we don't simplify the method, we simplify the communication. I am interested to hear after the presentation about communication. But it's a clear message to all people wanting a little bit more simplifying. Second point, if we cannot learn complexity, it's a lot of job. We cannot learn complexity everywhere. We must be able to trust people working, coping with this complexity. And it is very important. That was my question. Why do you trust me? I hope that you trust me by why. And we have very important discussions. Do you want to achieve it by setting much more strict rules everywhere and hope with a lot of controls that all people work correctly? Or, it is also very important, by working with more efficient governance rules, between all people acting here, what I said at the beginning. I am the scientist, there are the retailers, there are the consumers, there are the authorities, how to work together in order that at the end you have confidence in the messages. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.